Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to be talking about console formatting and formatting outputs that we're going to be printing out. It's fairly straightforward. There's just a little bit of tips to know about it. We know that we have the system.out.print that's already built in to Java and not append. We got to put print. We know that this is, from further videos or past videos, that this is a single print to a line and then not dropping down. So we'll just, this is a sentence without a line break, we'll say. Okay. So this, when we print this out, the cursor stays on the same line. And you know that if we, type one more of these in here and we were to say this is another sentence without a line break, we run this program, you'll see that it does in fact just squish it all onto one horizontal line. And you can see here, so there'd be a little extra formatting that would have to go into making sure that it stayed, with the escape sequences. We can put the \n, which would be referred to as a new line, and it would drop down to the next line and then print this out because of this \n escape character. Right, and then we know we have the, instead of typing this \, they've already built in that new line with the print line, and that will work as it will print out this line and then it will drop down a line. It'll print out this line and then it will drop down a line. So those are a couple ways to kind of keep the outputs flowing properly with a proper output, as you can see. And now one more that we have available, I'll just get rid of these two. We have the system.out.printf. Okay, and what this one does, it's kind of a little bit of a different beast altogether. We have a string that is going to be in place here, and we can type, this is a string or a sentence. And now we have these values that are allowed to go in here, format specifiers, technically. So the ones we have available, I'll just make like a little table here. I'll just say it's with a name or a type. I'll call it specifier. We'll just give it a type. We'll just say type. Then we'll go name. Right, I'm pretty sure that will work. A little description or what the result would be. We'll say result type of thing. Okay, so the very first one that you got is the percent D, or so we'll go B. Oh, percent B. And this is the Boolean. Alright, and it's just going to have either true or whatever if you put false. Okay, so it's just a Boolean operator or specifier when it comes down to it. So I'm gonna write these all out first, and then we'll talk about the different specifiers that are, I guess we could say output here instead. That would kind of make more sense. It would output the Boolean. We'll just say example here just to make this look a little bit nicer. So the next one we got here would be the percent D. All right, that is to do a number. So a number or non-decimal number. So we can kind of just, put that. Maybe I should make this a little bit bigger of a table. I'll have a little bit extras here. A little bit of an output. Non-decimal, we'll say. Right, and the D is kind of, it's kind of weird because it kind of looks like a double if you've been looking in to the rest of them. And this would just be, the example would be like 300, any number without a decimal place in it. You have the percent F, and this one is now to do floating point or decimal numbers. We'll type in floating point. We could put decimal as well. Know that floating point technically just means decimal number, so I can even just, we'll just say decimal, keep it easy. A decimal number here. I'll just write these all out quick, make the table, and then we'll just go through some examples of it. So just quickly, this would be like 45.46. Oh, something like that would be what you could use here for the specifier. You have the %e. Now that's going to be a number represented in scientific notation. These are the most commonly used ones for the most part. You might not even use most of them. Like for a lot of them, you might just use something like that would be the output example. When you give it a number, we'll go through some examples here, and I'll show you what this all means if it's still kind of unclear to you. It should be unclear at this point. We have the %c, which would be a character. And that would just be, just a single character, not words or anything like that. We have the %s, and this would be your string. Okay, and these are kind of the very common ones that we can use here. Would be like, I'll just put a sentence, basically. All right, so now we'll kind of use these. I'll set up some variables. We'll create each variable type. Boolean is we'll just name it true or false. True or false. We'll give it a value for now. Say it's false. We can go with a double here to make the or we'll go with an int. Sorry, I'm going to do the non-decimal. Just call it that, non-decimal. We'll just say it's 400. We'll go with the double. You can use a float for it. This will just be decimal. We'll call it decimal. Decimal number. This one will equal, we'll just go with something kind of crazy for the minute, just to kind of outline what's going on here. And for the decimal number here as well, we can kind of just use this scientific notation. What we can do is we'll print this decimal in scientific notation, so we don't really need to go further on a scientific notation variable, because a decimal does actually represent or will output a scientific notation. If the number gets big enough, it will just print that into the scientific form for us, or notation form. So here we go. We'll put in a character, and we'll just make it D. Doesn't matter, you can pick any character you wish, and then we'll just do a string. We'll call it sentence, which is technically a string of characters. Characters all strung together to create a string, which then would form a sentence. And we'll just say this is a string. All right, now these are very basic examples of all this. It's just to outline the different usages of each of these specifier format types. Okay, so now say if we have this is a sentence, right? And we did all the concatenations before, when it was, we had to add in this and add another one to it. Well, in this form now, you can kind of just go with the specifiers. So what we do is we would say, %b here, and then you can see there's a comma and it says args here. That stands for like arguments. So however many specifiers are used in your string, that's how many specifiers or arguments are going to have to follow the string. Okay, so at this point we have a boolean. This argument has to be a boolean. So we could put, you don't have to put these values like from here. You could type them in if you wanted to. Like this. Oh, what's going on there? %B, yeah, that should work. Oh, okay, that's why right there. We're missing the end semicolon there. All right, so you could just type them in here, and now this will say this is a sentence true. All right, so it technically is just kind of a placeholder for a value, and this placeholder is the value type, right? So we have this as a sentence true, right? And then we can also, instead of just typing them in here, we could take variables that we use, and this variable could be now in place of this. So this is just a specifier to hold a place for this value that's to follow. So I'm just going to put a new line in here, so we'll drop down. We could take all this out. We don't need that in there technically. We could put a space here, and then we could type, it'll just say true or false, which true or false is actually equal to false, so it'll just say false. All right, so this now is a specifier or a placeholder for a variable inside here. And now if you wanted to add more to it, you could go from here. You could be %B, %B. Now we have 3 Boolean values, right? So we'd actually have to put in 3 Boolean values. So you just comma, we could type this one's true, and then comma, this is false. Okay, and now we have there's 3 specifiers being used. There's 3 arguments being attached to them, and they go in order. So this one here is being referring to this value. This one here is being referred to or referring to this value, and this one here is referring to this value. Okay, this is kind of confusing. It's a little bit weird, but it does have a very good place for it. So you see we got false, true, false, right? And that's technically, we got false being stored in true or false up here, which we're using down here, and then we have true, which would be this guy, and then false, which would be this guy. All right, so that's kind of how that goes. We can also, we'll talk about that actually after. We'll just make another one. And this will just come down here. We're going to just call this the Boolean example. All right, and we'll come down and I'll just keep making different examples to kind of show this. This is going to print out each time. So now the next one that we have is the D. We got the D. We'll put, we can go take these out for now and just kind of go with it. We don't need 3 anymore, so we have to delete these ones. We only have 1 specifier, so we only have 1 argument. And we'll just put the value of the decimal in here just to show you. So now this D is actually a placeholder or a representation of this variable, which is holding 400. So if we were to run this now, the top's going to say false, true, false, and then the bottom line should say 400, or will say 400. Okay, so it's just a placeholder inside of your string. So you don't have to really concatenate anymore. You can kind of use this format specifier to do this. We'll just say this is the this is just the number non-decimal example. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. Again, if you do add more, you can add more. It's not, not subject to only having the 1. And the spaces, I'll put the spaces in. We have, say, 3 here. We'll put 1 more just to show you can put 4, but we need 4 arguments. So, and we can just put in numbers here like this, as long as we have the right amount of values that will be referred to. So this one is now here. This one is for here. This one's represented here. And this one is representative of that one. Okay, so now if we run it, you'll see that it, it doesn't really format the spaces for us. So we still have things to kind of do in this form. See, it's all one big number. You can put the spaces in between, right, like this. And now that will, output a little nicer. if you do want to put, you could put little commas in there to kind of, depending on what your output's going to look like. You got your spaces, you could have it maybe look like a phone number if you wanted to. You could have, it's all depending on what kind of format you're looking to output it as. It kind of just gives you a little bit more help to, format the string so it looks nicer. It kind of not it's not a phone number technically, because but just to show the different ways in which it just helps to format the string and the output of your data a little bit nicer, instead of concatenating and a whole bunch of different strings together. You may use this one to make it a little easier on yourself. So that's the non-decimal point example. We'll move down now and I'll show you the floating point, and we'll say this is the decimal. We'll just call it the decimal number. We'll take out this. Okay, so this one's floating point. Just going to remove all these again. We're just going to work with 1, and we'll put the %f. We'll bring down our decimal number. We'll just stick that in there. We'll delete these because we only have one. We only have one specifier. We can only have one argument. And you'll see that if you do have more, if we do put one more in there, it won't actually work. Like, you can run it, but there's not a, it's not, this doesn't have a format that it's going to display, so it just won't display that, that number. So you'd actually, if we wanted to display it, we'd have to put that %f, and if we run the program now, you'll see, this number will be output, and then a space, and then this number will be output now. Okay, so just be aware of that. Just be aware that you do need however many arguments, has to have that many specifiers, and we can mix these. It's not, it's not just that we can have them here. You can put %f here, put %d here, but now this has to be representing this type. Okay, so if we were to take, non-decimal and stick it down here, you can run that too, and it will now show you the decimal, and then the floating point, and then the non-decimal number. And as you see here, you see it's, they're not required just to have single value types in it. You can mix them up and use every one of them, any one of them that you wish to use. Okay, so I'm just kind of trying to outline a little bit. We'll make just 2 floating point numbers here, and we'll just go with, okay, we'll do something like that. We'll run the code, and now you'll see we have 2 decimal point numbers being displayed, the string with a little space in the center. Perfect. All right, so now we can move down, and we're respell this so it actually spells the right word. There we go. I kind of get some spelling errors here and there, but not 100% perfect. So here we go, and we'll now work on the scientific notation format. Scientific notation, and we'll just take this value here, because now, there we go. We'll just take that, we'll copy it down to here. I just Control Z. I kind of drug half of this into the center, and it messed up there, but we'll just put E now on both of these, and you'll see it takes a decimal number to do so. We can run it. I'll show you what the output will actually be. If you notice where the decimals are in this now, you'll see that they get actually printed in scientific notation. So essentially these numbers at the top are exactly these numbers here. And if you notice, the decimal point was at 3242 decimal, 3242 point. And you see all these numbers at the back, right? So what this just technically did was move this decimal place up 3, 1, 2, 3. It moved it up there, and then it, kind of explained that here. So the number is truly, this is an exponent, so it'd be 3.242234 to the exponent 3. To the third power, basically. When you see something like this and you got the positive, when you want to if you were to look at it yourself and you wanted to understand what the number was, what you're going to do is just take this, this decimal point, and you're going to look at the number after the exponent, and if it's a positive, you move it to the right. So we go 1, 2, 3, and that's technically what your number is now, right here. All right, so it's, the true is 3,242 or 3,242. It's not very difficult when it comes down to it. You can see over here, same thing. It's just, pushing the value 4. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. We get it here. Now that's the representation of it with the power of 4. So if you were to do this, 10 to the power of 4, sorry. So it'd be like saying, 6.3 times 10 to the power of 4. And that's what, it's not the number to the power of 3, sorry. It would be 3.24223 times 10 to the power of 3. That's technically what scientific notation is doing here. And I can build a video. You can watch a video on the scientific notations and different math notations and different mathematical concepts. We can definitely make a whole entire, we can have a channel, or not a channel, but a little lesson or video tutorials on those. Better understand your mathematics and stuff like that. In this one here too, it can kind of be considered a engineering notation, because generally when you get a power of 3s like this, that's engineering notation. Will always kind of work in the power of 3. So you'd have, it'd be 3.24223 times 10 to the power of 3. And if you had it at 10 to the power of 6, that would also be kind of considered engineering notation, though it is scientific notation. Engineering notation just kind of works in powers of 3. So it's not a big deal. To just know if you need to, you probably, it depends on what you're doing. I can't say you probably won't use it. Some projects do call for it, so it depends on what the, depends on your logic and the program you're looking to build. So enough about that. Move down, we'll talk about the character. It's pretty straightforward. Character. Character example. I'm just gonna copy this, and this might be in the form that it's same kind of thing. We'll just put a single one here. We'll take this one out. We'll move one of them, remove one of them, and then we'll put in a character here. Okay, we have to put it as a character. We can put an S here, say, and we can go something, this. We can just have that. I mean, that's not really a good example of it, but just to show you that it will finish the word this for us at the very last output that we have. You see here, we kind of just use the character and input it. We input the character in place of this S. We have a character up here. We can then, if you got a variable, you can use it down here as well, like we have been. Now we'll say thid, because it's a D up here, so it'll just say THID. But nonetheless, you can, do it. So just to kind of verify, how the print, the specifiers are working, the formats of them. There is more to this, so I just we'll say this is a string, and if we just type %s here, %s, and we can bring down this value sentence, use it here. Now we can run it. And this comes in handy when you're actually gathering like lots of data from, say, a database. You're not really sure, you know what's coming out of it, but you're not really sure how it's supposed to be pieced together. It's a little bit easier to use this kind of stuff. You can even make another sentence, just call it sentence _1. Just nothing too fancy, and we'll say oh wow, I don't know what's going on with my Oh, it's my touchpad. Keep hitting the touchpad and it. We gotta put that on dead mode, kill the touchpad. Just call it another sentence. Hit C. And then you can, you know, bring this into it as well. Just control or %s. We need another argument because we now brought in one. We'll use sentence. And again, you can reuse them too. You don't, it's not, you know, if you went %s and then took this sentence after, control C, and we put it in here, it's not like it, you know, you're not just stuck to using it one time. As long as you have the arguments that match the format specifier here, you can reuse it. So we have, this is a string, another sentence, this is a string. All right, so that's kind of the different ones that you have available. So there's only one more thing that can go with this, and you can add, you can format it with your own widths, is what we would say. So if we said all this stuff, you know, was kind of bunched together, we can, you know, bunch these numbers up, which, I mean, you're not probably going to do anyhow, but, and if we said that this here, you know, is 6, this one is, now I'll just remove these ones for 1 second so you can see what's going on. So we say %, then 6D. What you're doing is you're setting up 6 places, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now that'll be kind of like the numbers placeholder. But if the number gets bigger than 6 digits, it will automatically open itself up. So I'll just show you as this goes. We got, you know, 6D, we'll go %, and we'll do, you know, 6D again, and then we got these numbers, so we'll just remove 2 because again we only have 2 specifiers still. That's 1 specifier, that's 2. I'll just show you what this is doing here now. We'll run the code. Okay, so you see how there's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces, and then we have a width of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. All right, so it's just one way to give yourself a little bit of padding. You can kind of, you can specify it with a little bit of padding, and I'll show you again with the boolean. See how they're all tight right here. Boolean works again. You just go with the %. After the % is the width that you're trying to allot that value. So if we, you know, true has 4 value or 4 right here, but false has 5. So I'll show you, if we put 4 and we type 4 here and we type 4 here and we run it, that it won't technically just cut off one of these values. You know, it will extend it beyond. Oh, okay, yeah. And now, so what happened is this one is actually 4, okay? It pushed itself over. This guy is only at 4, so you're not getting any spaces because there is only 4. Then it pushed this one to 4 and it extended itself by 1. So in order to get this to actually properly maintain itself, you would have to just move up to 1 extra. You can put the, you know, you can put 5 here because the true is the one that you want, but then you would have to probably put 1 more here as well just to kind of give it. So we can push these all up to 5, and I'll show you so we get it a little bit better output here. So, and now you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, so that's, you know, technically right. And then this one's kind of squishing back up to the back side of it again, so you know, we may have to give this one a 6, and it's depending on the space and placeholders that are available, you know, or the word or the sentence that are going into it. And you can see we're formatting it a little bit nicer now. If you do go 6 across the whole board and you run this now, it might look a little more wonky to you because you know, the true again is less characters. So we have 6 values here, From this point we have 6 values to here, and then from this point we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values to here, and then from here we have 6 values. So because we're missing that one extra character that false already has, we're now, you know, pushing the true over by a little extra. So again, just things to watch out for. They're not too too crucial when it comes down to it, but just be careful with that. There is ways that you can fix it. You can, as long as you know. So now we'll come down to our decimal or floating point, and this is probably more where you're going to see this and where you're going to use it quite often. So what we can do is we can actually give this a value with a, you know, if we said 0.2, or even just, we can just say, we'll put the zeros here, we'll just say decimal 2. Now what we're doing is actually putting in this point and then a decimal 2. So we're allotting how many decimal places we're going to give our value after this point. And you can see this decimal number up here is actually, you know, 3242.2342. So when we run it, we should just get the 23 or 0.23 after the 32,042. And you can see here now we are in fact, you know, just formatting it with 2 decimal places. So that works for that. If you notice, I'll put this %f in here. You can give it a width on the front of it as well. You can, you know, if you said 8.2, you know, it gives it 8 characters like we've been doing up here. It'll give it 8 allotted spaces in front of it, and then it will give it the 0.2 at the back. So let's just, we can put that there as well. And you can see now, I'll show you, we'll run this. And you'll kind of get a understanding here. So you can see we have now again the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't look like we're getting our full 8 when it comes down to it, but we have 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is kind of the full width of the value, and we are getting the point with only 2 decimal places after it. Again, now from here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, we did put a space in there. Was there a space? Yeah, there is a space, so that's why we're not, this space is technically here. So we do got the full 8 with 2 decimal places. So now I want to show you the thing that's going on here as well. You notice that with 63525.65, but it did round with that 8 to the next, you know, value. So this is kind of your best way for working with currencies, different things like that. It's a good way to, you know, keep your numbers proper, good way to format the width of your numbers if you need to. It doesn't, if you were to go with, you know, 2 here, or sorry, 3 or 2, it's not going to just cut you off to 3 or 2. It just kind of, it's only allotted spaces, and then if the number is bigger, it will actually move forward. So as you can see, we're no longer giving it that leading space. Technically we said we only want 3, but the number is bigger, so we will go further. You can, you know, specify this with a 3, and we'll get 3 decimal places. So that one's going to be probably your most used one, most widely used one right here. And you can see we got 3 decimal places rather than just, you know, 2. So same thing goes for each one. You're allowed to do that along the way. I don't believe that the character really has much to, you know, you can, I'm pretty sure, put it in there, but it's not really, you know, it'd be for kind of formatting space or format. It depends on how you're going to use it. See how it does a lot itself. The 5, it's not so much used as to giving it that kind of spacing. It's kind of not, you know, same with this. You can say, you know, 12 spaces here, 12 here, 12 here. Just know it's to give your field a width Okay, so it just kind of helps you to format properly, maybe in a form of a table format type of thing. 12 and 12 is obviously too small. Let's go up to 24, 24, 24. We can save that, run the code, and you'll see now we can kind of, you'll see when to use it. Just know that you can use it, the percent, and then the following, see, it kind of creates this table-like format. Just another way to format outputs. So, when you use the %B, %D, all these ones here, if you add a number into it in the middle here, then it's just going to give you a width. If you're adding a decimal number to this, it's going to be the decimals allowed after. If you see you're not really doing much with this doesn't, that's not good. So the decimal point really doesn't have any kind of values behind it, so you're gonna get an error. Don't work with certain ones will not take it, just this floating point, because you're working with decimals, and I do believe that this one actually will as well. I don't think you really want to though, for just a simple fact that the number doesn't represent that same number technically. There could be some debate on that but in truth it doesn't. This no longer is a true representation of that number, so to speak. It's kind of cutting you off here a bit. You'd be, if you look up here, this decimal would actually be this guy here, and when we move it over by 3 and put the decimal here, okay, there's actually these numbers that were, if you got a calculation with these numbers in it, it should probably represent these numbers as well, because when we were to do the math and we were to convert it back with this, decimal specifier in it, you would actually be getting, so we would go 3242.00000, and that's really not representative of this. 0.2030 can mean a lot in a CNC machine. You're trying to cut something very precise. You're machining parts to be extremely precise, and that 0.23 could be a really tight fit, and that, that's not good to kind of just clean those off. So I wouldn't really probably use it so much here. And I could be wrong with that. There could be a time and place for that, but truthfully, I wouldn't myself. I would try to leave these as good as possible, like as kind of, let the computer just do it itself if it does it. Even if you need it in that notation, then use it. But if it gets there, and again, we can actually, I'll just quickly point out, another way that you'll see this as well. So say if we have, a lot of these leading zeros here, and you run this, just to show you that you're going to get the negative value on the other side of it. So here, negative just means move to the left at this point, but that's it. So that's pretty much it for this video. We'll wrap it up here. I want to thank you for watching. If you have any comments, questions, put in the comment section below. If you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be great. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and we'll catch you in the next video.